Now with musical accompaniment by Kikoskia.
Hello everyone, welcome to another thrilling, exciting and amazing episode of the podcast. I am joined as usual by the wonderful Definition, King of Rap. How are you today, Definition?
I'm not too bad.
Good. And always we are joined by our very special guest. This time we are joined by Kikoskia. He is king of old school Let's Plays. He plays adventure games, RPGs, and his favourite game is Ball Jacks. How are you doing, sir?
I'm fine. And it's Kikoskia for the pronunciation.
I'm terribly sorry.
That's alright, I am insulted forever. No, I'm fine.
I'll just call you Kiko from now on.
Yeah,
I think
that's
easier.
what most people call me.
We'll make life a lot easier throughout.
Mm-hmm.
Out of interest, where do you get your name from? I'm curious now.
It's quite an interesting story. That it's a Baldur's Gate story actually, because when I finally got Baldur's Gate, I thought I needed a name for my very first character, who is a paladin, and his name was Abaddon Kikoskia. I just spaz typed on the keyboard, really, just went and eventually, like, letters came up, and I made sense of them, and then Kikoskia came into existence. And and it kind of stuck.
Has that sort of been your regular name throughout the many RPGs you have played?
No, actually, it hasn't. But no, it hasn't really.
It's just something that you have fond memories of.
It's just something that tended to stick.
Fair enough. Anyway, first thing I wanted to ask everyone today is a topic. Obviously, we have a person who plays fairly old school games. Kiko Let's Plays Simon the Sorcerer 3D, I think, is one of your current Let's Plays that you've come to the end of.
Yeah, I've recorded it all. It's not all up yet, but it is all ready to go.
He basically plays games that probably fairly prehistoric, but he does so very well and with great flair.
Prehistoric.
So we're going to. The first question I want to ask is a retro gaming question, and we'll start with Kiko, then I'll move to Def. So Kiko, what's the first game you personally ever played? First of all.
Oh dear. Well, you'd probably be the memories of games. I can never remember the first game I played, but memories of games. You'd probably be talking about the Amiga 500, and if any of the older games that have any resonance. I played an awful lot of Pac-Mania on that. I think that's my memory of one of the first Amiga games I played on that. Pac-Mania. I was terrible at it.
How old would you have been at the time?
Very young. I mean, we're talking less than 10 here.
So a long time ago in the annals of history.
I'm not that old, you know.
Julius
Caesar did not go up to me and go, "Gosh, he's playing those games that are terribly old and passé." That is the worst Julius Caesar accent in the world. If he was alive now, he would be dead. But otherwise, he'd be insulted.
Deb, what was the first game you played?
I don't know. Well, I don't remember. We're all
Did you block
fairly
it out? Was it that
old
bad?
here, so because my first
Don't
console
remember
was
any games we played. Yes.
my first console was the NES. It would probably be between Mario or Dragon Warrior, Ghost Lion, Solstice, any one of those games. Those were some of the probably not the first games we had, but some of the first games I played on the NES.
Now, you see, the strange thing about the NES, like you mentioned all those games, but we finally got one at extreme discount, well after the Super Nintendo had come out. We only had Mario Bros. 3 for conventional games. I got stuck with things like Little Nemo Dream Master and Iron Sword.
I'm sure I've seen a review of Little Nemo Dream Master, and it looks fairly odd.
It's notoriously notorious.
Yeah.
And Iron Sword, the less said about that one, the better.
There are a lot of bad games on the NES, though. Sorry, Def, go ahead.
We could go on forever about like obscure NES games that were. I wouldn't say they're all terrible, but things like Legacy of the Wizard. Oh, I love that game.
Oh, what have I got here? I'm just turning around to my shelves and having a look at the really terrible ones I've got.
I have a copy of McDonaldland on my desk next to me right now.
Oh god, I'm looking at my copy of Time Lord here.
Time Lord. I think I may have seen the guys over at Continue play
It
that
has
at some point,
fantastic.
actually.
It has a fantastic introduction music, and that's all it's really got.
It has sound. Thumbs up, sound, yay.
Yay!
Everyone loves a good bit of sound. To be fair, like the first console for me as well was the NES, and I hate to be like boring and generic, but I think the first two games I got with it was Super Mario Brothers, but then I also got Solar Jetman, which was
God.
one of Rare's first ever games
no.
before they were even called Rare. They were called Ultimate Play the Game, I believe, back then, and it's interesting.
I am so sorry for you.
It has interesting controls, is what I'll say. Interesting.
You're trying nicely not to say it scarred me for life.
It is one of the hardest games I played, and it was like brutally difficult and nonsensical, and like you're on a planet and you're flying a little ship around and you're constantly battling with the flow of gravity, and you have to pick up various objects, bring them back to your ship and drop them off, and when you pick up an object the controls go batshit crazy.
Yes, when you pick it up suddenly it goes
and it sort of like tries to drag you to the nearest wall. It's just awful. It's fucking awful. It was so bad. By the time I didn't know any better, so you know,
Would you say that's the hardest game you've played on the NES?
I don't know. There's quite a lot of tough games I played on the NES. I did have what did I have? I sold most of my NES games recently, sadly. I'm trying to think what I did have that was really bad. Oh, I had a baseball. I don't know why I bought a baseball game. Baseball doesn't even exist in England as far as I'm fucking concerned. And I don't know. I was like, oh yeah, there's a game. Mum, can I have a baseball game, please? Like, little me must have said that. And I don't know what the fuck was wrong with me. I must have like been dropped on my head that day or something. I don't know. It's like fucking ridiculous. And but to be fair, Solar Jetman's probably my most vivid memory of a hard game on the NES, but I may well have played harder games.
While I only recently got a hold of copies of Mega Man 1 and 2 for the NES, Iron Sword was also one of those games that I had with our NES, and I still have it, and it's a love-hate relationship with Iron Sword. It's a brilliant game, but it's also a terribly hard game, and Kouros just dies so pathetically every time, and you're like, it's my fault this happened, but it's also your fault because you're crap.
Yeah. I think most NES games do conjure up that sort of love-hate relationship feeling.
Yeah, like I think like I don't know. We had a lot of sports games which were terrible on the NES. We had the American football, which I think was just called
Press A and B.
Tecmo Bowl, I think. But then we had games like Top
God.
Gun. Oh Jesus.
Oh, Top Gun. Oh, I own that.
Oh yeah.
Impossible. Then again, you're talking to the guy that owns all kinds of terrible games. You could do an entire podcast just on terrible games I own.
Actually, I don't know.
Like a good idea to me.
I think the jankiest game I've ever had on NES was Yo Noid.
Oh god, that's like the mascot dude, yeah?
Yeah.
You see, that was when they were in their mascotting phase. I mean, for God's sake, Super Frog was a massive advert for Lucasade, and then there was Cool Spot, and then there was
Cool Spot.
Even Chester Cheetah got a game.
Yeah.
There's a game based around like an anti-drug cartoon as well that I remember seeing, like Wally Bear and the Don't Do Drugs
Wally
Squad or
Bear and the
something.
No Gang.
Oh yeah.
I was reasonably close.
You were reasonably close.
But yeah, it's just an interesting year to talk. We haven't actually spoken about this on the podcast before, and it's interesting to go back and look at things like that. Which brings me to my next question for everyone. Probably moving slightly forward in years, or maybe a lot forward if you're really bad at games. What was the first game that you actually completed?
Oh.
Kiko, you go first.
Oh. Jeez, what was the... yes! It was Super Mario Brothers 3 when you cheated like a bugger and used the warp whistle and the unlimited P. The unlimited P-Wing.
Yeah.
That's what you did. You're just like, yep, I'm going to warp whistle the World 8 and unlimited P-Wing through every single stage. And then when you got to the final stage, you were like, I can't P-Wing through this. Damn!
I absolutely hated World 8 of Super Mario World 3. It gives me horrific night. That fucking music and the tank sort of slowly advancing across the screen.
He just flew over us, sir. Are we going to turn around? No, we can only go forward. There's no reverse on these wooden tanks. Why are they made of wood?
Why are the tanks made of wood? That is a question that must have puzzled gamers for annals.
I don't think they actually ever thought about it until now. Now they're like, why were they made of wood?
Yeah, exactly. It is like a. I can't. To be fair, like playing Super Mario Brothers 3 on the NES, I didn't actually play Super Mario Brothers 3 till the SNES. And you could save on the SNES, which kind of made life a bit easier. On Super Mario All Stars, I had fun memories there. Anyway, Def, what was the first game you finished?
In the NES era,
dear.
besides the Mario 3, there wasn't a whole lot of games that, at my age, I had the ability to beat. But I think the first one I ended up managing to beat was Zelda, the first Zelda that we had, which was that had the gold cartridge.
There were two of them. Are you talking about the first one or the second one?
The first one.
It's 2D side scroller. The first one.
Yeah, it was the first one.
I've never actually played the original Zelda or the second Zelda ever. The first Zelda game I played was Ocarina of Time, and that's the only one I actually enjoyed out of all the Zelda games I played as well.
You even played Ocarina of Time before A Link to the Past.
Yeah, I did.
Really?
Yeah. I had played Link to the Past actually. Now you mention it, but I didn't play it till after I played Ocarina of Time.
You're talking to a guy that owns a fair few Zelda games, but rarely ever plays Zelda games.
Yeah.
My favourite Zelda game was the Game Boy one.
Oh,
Really?
Link's
the Little
Link's
Islands.
Awakening. Yeah.
Oh, I borrowed that off a friend and played it on the Super Game Boy, like around the time the N64 was out. I did actually quite like that one. I vaguely remember fighting octopuses on a beach to get a shield or something early on.
You get
or
the
maybe
sword.
I'm wrong. Sword.
And then the owl comes to see you.
Wonderful owl.
No, he wasn't.
The
He was a git.
Owls in games actually generally are horrible. Think about the one in King's Quest as well, that irritating one.
Look out, Graham! Thanks for telling me when I'm dying.
But yeah, it's interesting actually. The first game I finished was DuckTales 2 on the
DuckTales
NES.
2?
Yeah, I actually recently found out it was super rare and had to sell it because I needed money. But it was good because it was really rare, and I had it with a box with a manual and everything. It was really good fun. I remember like just the sense of victory that I'd managed to beat a last boss was just like. It's like I actually can play a game, I can finish a game, and then I went back to dying on Super Mario Brothers 1. I never actually finished the first the first part of World 8 on Super Mario Brothers 1. I could never do. I always ran out of time. Every time I did it, I've never finished it ever in my life.
All this talking about the NES has made me start thinking of Dragon's Lair, and I'm getting horrible, horrible flashbacks.
Oh,
What's worse is I own it for the Game Boy as well.
are they identical versions?
They are completely different, actually. The Dragon's
really?
Lair on the Game Boy is a platformer. It is still terrible, however.
I have seen, to be fair, like my knowledge of Dragon's Lair, like probably quite a lot of people watching this video is probably from AVGN's review of the NES version. I mean, I played like the CG version in arcades and stuff years and years and years ago, but never actually played any of the console versions of it.
One of the best versions on the iPhone. It's fantastic.
Is that like a true port?
It's the true arcade version. Yeah, it is. It's very good.
I think that was like at the time like quite a revolutionary concept actually, and an entertaining one.
It was, and then unfortunately the era of FMV video games happened, and then
to be fair, like aside from things like Phantasmagoria, there isn't many FMV games I played. Perhaps fortunately, actually, now I think about it.
I'm holding my hand up here. I played the X-Files FMV game.
I can imagine it being bad.
Yes.
You sound like you might die then, actually. That was like... yeah. Okay. Next question. We're moving up in history again here.
Uh-oh.
What was the first game that you felt truly absorbed in? What's the first game that you would list among your favourite games of all time that you have played?
Oh, that's a hard one. Absorbed in Doom 2. Doom 2, because I was a tender age of 13 when I got a hold of a copy of Doom 2, and before then it was Wolfenstein 3D. And Doom 2 was fantastic. And ironically, it was much easier to get Doom 2 than it was to get a copy of Doom 1. And then I got one CD that I must have somewhere called D-Zone 2, which had over 500 levels, custom-made levels for Doom 2.
Oh, wow.
And dear word, it was like, that was it. Like, I love Doom 2.
What do you like about Doom 2 over the others in the series?
Well, Doom 2 had the super shotgun, which just blatantly made things better. It had the word super in it, and you had to go like click to reload it, and it just killed everything. And it was just very fun, although I will never LP a Nightmare LP of any of the Doom games because...
I think you should.
No, because...
Everyone tell him, guys.
No, do not... No!
What's that game that you really wanted to Let's Play? Is it Resurrection of Evil?
No, it really isn't Resurrection of Evil.
Death, what's the first game that you can remember getting absorbed in?
As far as getting absorbed in any of the old RPGs, I got sucked into really hardcore. And I wouldn't even count them as any of my favorite games. And I'd never beaten them. Like Dragon Warrior, I didn't beat Dragon Warrior until maybe like a few years ago. But Dragon Warrior, Ghost Lion, Ultima Exodus, which was the only Ultima I had.
Ultima 3. Ooh.
Yeah. And
That's
in that
choice.
game, pretty much all consisted of me hand making my characters, leaving town, dying right away, and then doing it all over again.
And all for a bunch of punch cards.
Yeah. I would have to say, oh geez, my favorite game as far as getting absorbed in it and wasting hours upon hours upon hours of my day in was like later in years probably would be Arcanum.
Okay, yeah. I haven't actually played much of it. I always make a character, play for 10 minutes, and stop.
Yeah.
I actually need to play Arcanum because I am reliably told it's very good.
It is probably in my top 5 favorite games of all time.
That's Arcanum of Steamworks and Magic Obscura is the name, is it right?
Yeah.
Have you ever come across that, Kiko? Or...
I have it on GOG, I think, but I've never actually played it, even though I've been encouraged to do so.
I have it on GOG as well.
I have so many games on GOG.
Same. It's actually becoming quite a problem.
It is.
What else was I going to say? For me, I'm going to pick a slightly later game, and probably quite an unusual game, and it brings me on to something else I wanted to talk about. One of the first games that I got really absorbed in and played for hours and hours and hours was Grand Theft Auto on DOS.
Oh, the top-down version, yeah.
The top-down version,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah. That was when it was good.
I absolutely adored it. I didn't care about the missions. Fuck the missions, they were rubbish. All I cared about was going around, getting as much attention from the police as possible, setting up car bombs, running over those Buddhist monks that you get in the line, and just generally having as much fun as possible. It's like the budding psychopath in me. I used to enjoy staying in one area for as long as possible so I could have a huge body count just lying around, like the little puddles you used to get around them and stuff, and cackling like I was insane while the police chased me. So yeah, I did enjoy Grand Theft Auto, probably a bit too much, the original top-down.
Yeah.
You should have actually seen me play Dishonored today. Speaking of a more recent game, I killed lots of guards in melee rate combat, cutting their heads off, and I was cackling like I was totally possessed.
Please
I think it's just...
tell me the AI for the guards is better than the AI for the guards in Thief 1. You get spotted and they just home in on you. I'm hiding in this corner, and they know you're there, and they're like, "Come on out, Taffer!" It's like you are walking right towards me. Really?
It's to be fair, because it's not a shadow-based stealth. Like when they see you, they always have a good reason for seeing you. If you know what I mean? Like they do look for you, and they hear noises and go and investigate the noises, that kind of stuff. It's I think it's really good. It's probably the best game. It's usurped Dragon's Dogma as the best game I played this year, and I really like it so far. I haven't finished it. I haven't got very far. I haven't had much time to play it, but for the 2.5 hours I have played, I love it myself. But I love Thief so much, and it feels like Thief crossed with BioShock is what it feels like, and I love both of those series. So
yeah.
Anyway, one thing I did want to, on the topic of Grand Theft Auto, obviously when I played Grand Theft Auto, I was way too young to be properly playing Grand Theft Auto, and you mentioned Doom 2 as well. I'm assuming at the time you were probably too young to be playing Doom 2 as well.
I was about 12, 13, and it's a 15 game, so
I wanted to I mean, I don't know how this works in the US for deaf, but when I was that age, it used to be like an added thrill to be playing a game that was because there wasn't that many games back then that were rated for adults, if you know what I mean.
Right.
Like now, it's like like pretty much every other game. But I remember getting a hold of a copy of Resident Evil 2 and being like, it's rated 15, and I'm only like 12. Oh my god, this is amazing.
Yeah.
And then you realised you controlled like a tank.
It was absolutely, like, it gave like an added thrill to the game, if that kind of sounds silly, but that's some of like my fondest retro memories of playing really violent games and being too young to play them, even like Quake and stuff like that.
Yeah. I mostly watched like my brother play like the first Doom, and like I would never play it myself because I'm like, oh god, it's so scary.
You have a guy in the call here that owns the PC version of Mortal Kombat 2 and played that for the gore. Yo, good luck getting that working now.
Yeah.
Oh, guys. I didn't actually play any Mortal Kombat games to Mortal Kombat 4 on the N64.
Mortal
That was the first time I played a Mortal
4?
What?
Yeah, that's the first
So
time I
you
played a Mortal
skipped
Kombat
like
game.
3?
I have Mortal Kombat Trilogy on the Xbox, like, now from
I
the
have
arcade,
it on the
but,
PlayStation, which means basically whenever you want to use Shang Tsung, loading.
Oh, the PS1 load times. But yeah, I didn't touch the franchise until the N64 era, and I'm pretty sure 4 was on the N64.
It was.
And I remember the dude whose fatality was like ripping someone else's leg off. He was a new character, I think, in 4, and then he like beats them to death with the leg.
With that leg?
But I can't, he was bald. He was bald. Can't remember his name.
Was he the black dude, the blind guy with the sword?
Maybe.
No, that Kenshi was only introduced in Deadly Alliance, I think.
There's so many Mortal Kombat
I thought it was
games.
earlier than that.
No, it might have been someone like Quan Chi, but again, Quan Chi was all.
Oh, yeah, it was him.
Oh,
It was
Quan
him.
Chi,
It was him.
okay.
Yeah, it's Quan Chi.
Oh man, do you remember? Speaking of Quan Chi, do you remember the 64 game, the Mortal Kombat spin-off that they had, Sub-Zero?
Oh,
The platformer?
Okay. Bit of a story.
Sub-Zero
bit of an
Adventures.
interesting story about this one. You know that
Go on.
I've let LP'd Mortal Kombat 5 spelt with a C, which is a horrible Mega Drive pirate version of Mortal Kombat Sub-Zero Mythologies. I finally tracked down a cartridge of that.
Wow.
It is
Holy
just
It must be quite rare.
it is just as bad as it was when I played it with an emulator.
I can't think of many more games, actually. I remember seeing the reviews, like, because I used to subscribe to Nintendo Magazine, like, around that time, and I remember getting, like, 2.5 out of 10 or some stuff like that. It was, like, really bad.
Well, when you need a button to change direction.
I mean, to be fair, like, in general, the N64 was a bit of a ropey console. They had some good games, but a lot of it was... There was a lot of really bad stuff in it, like Clay Fighter 63 and a third, and stuff like that. They were just so bad.
Fighter was the best game ever. No, it wasn't. It wasn't good to begin with.
I actually have the cartridge version of Quake 2 for the N64 on my desk here, and that is one of the worst ports. It's a completely different game to Quake 2 on the PC.
Good fun
and it's
trying
one
to
of
turn.
trying to aim with the fucking R button and drag your fucking gun across the screen slowly.
The guy's like, should I actually fire? I feel kind of sorry for the guy. Look at him. Just stay still. Oh god, I missed. Oh, I'm dead.
But I also have like a really good old game. Actually, one of my favourite 64 games is Snowboard Kids. I fucking love Snowboard Kids. It's absolutely amazing. I loved it. I love like cute kart races. I haven't played any for a long time, and Snowboard Kids was one of my all-time favourites. I just love it.
It's like
Go on.
Oh, I was gonna say it's like the first, because we started out pretty tame on the 64, and the game that our 64 came with was Wave Racer 64.
Oh yeah.
And then like our second game was like Chameleon's Twist, which was like a really
Oh my god, I had that as well.
God.
I mean, our consoles went a very, very strange order. Like, we had the Amiga, and then we had the NES, and then we got Game Boys, and we went through the whole catalogue of Game Boys. But then it was PC, and it was only until I was like 20 years old that I actually got a Mega Drive and started to play older games myself a lot. A lot of retro gaming nostalgia there. It's very strange. Like, I skipped tons of things. I only got a PlayStation very briefly and got very few games for it, and the same with the PS2. Unfortunately, my first PS2 game was Evergrace.
I have never heard of that. My first PS2 game was Summoner, which
well,
is fairly
it was
bad
made
as
by
well.
the same people that made Demon Souls.
Oh really? From Software.
Unfortunately, it's terrible. But I actually had an interesting question that I've just been thinking of for a while, actually.
Go on.
Going around, starting with either one of you two, what is quite possibly the most obscure old video game that you've ever owned?
Whew, that's a very, very, very tough one, actually. I need to spend some time. Speaking of, actually, I think this might be a fairly obscure game, and I have no idea why I own it. And it's actually I've been going through my old games to sell. I've been getting rid of my old stuff really because I don't have the consoles anymore. And I have a game here called Fever Pitch Soccer, and it's a soccer game, a football game, not soccer game, a football game on the Super Nintendo. And no one ever seems to have heard of it when I mention it, and it's different because when each different player has a different superpower, and when you get the ball, different types of players do different things. So there's one guy who turns the ball into a fireball and blazes it through the back of the net, and there's ones that jump with the ball in between their legs and stuff so you don't get tackled, and it's really unusual. But I did play it loads when I was a kid. I don't normally like sports games, but I really liked this one. I played it absolutely loads, and I think it's probably one of the most obscure games I own because I've never seen it referenced anywhere for ages.
I'd say I've never heard of that personally, but I think a lot of the obscure games that I played. Well, one of the obscure games that I played was Ghost Lion on the NES. I don't know anyone who really knows that, and I still have the poster.
I've never heard of it till you mentioned it.
I still have the poster of it. It's bad. It's a JRPG, old RPG. But a lot of the obscure games that I had were for the PS1. One was called Ball Breakers, which was basically you're just robots on a ball, and you basically run around trying to break the other guys and stuff like that. And the other one, I don't know how obscure it was, but I don't know a lot of people that I've never talked to a lot of people that had played it, but it was PS1, and it was a point-and-click adventure called Blazing Dragons.
No.
Never heard of that either. So coming out with some quite impressive things here. Hopefully, if you guys watching this, if you've actually heard of these games, let us know in the comments because I'd like to know how obscure these actually are. Yep. So what about you?
Now
Kiko?
the reason why I brought this up is because I'm going to mention something that a lot of people probably don't have. It is Duke Nukem 3D for the Mega Drive.
Oh really?
After the lifespan of the Mega Drive expired in the Europe and United States. The Master System was still absurdly popular in Brazil, and they then gave a subsidiary company, Tectoy, the right to create Mega Drives, and also the right to make new games. It is a Tectoy, and therefore a Mega Drive, official game made in 1998, Duke Nukem 3D. It's not the same game as the old ones. It runs a lot better on a console than it actually does in an emulator, and it's terrible. And it cost me 60 blooming quid. Good luck trying to get that from Brazilian eBay.
Well, yeah, it's certainly quite a challenge.
It's for a start, it's not in a language I speak. It's but
is it full of upside down question marks?
it was full of me just going, well, what's it saying?
Is it you said it wasn't like the originals? What is it like?
It's a lot shorter. Shorter, and they're completely different levels. And the music is terrible, and quite a lot of the graphics is rather flat. And considering it's being controlled by a Mega Drive controller, I mean, doesn't control very well either, and it's brutally hard, and it's not very good. It's almost as bad as my copy of Space Hulk for the PC that doesn't install. We read the rules.
Space Hulk. I used to play the board game of that.
It doesn't install. It actually streams from the disc, which means it's impossible to run on a normal computer unless you're changing things in your computer that people warn you. If you reset your computer while these changes are in effect, you will break it. I'm like, great.
I was going to say, actually, Space Hulk, that's the board game from Games Workshop from the late 90s, where you were Blood Angels on board a ship being attacked by Gene Stealers.
Yeah.
I thought so.
Games Workshop, don't get me started on that.
I used to do a lot of Games Workshop stuff, but that's for another discussion.
Oh, yes, it's not even the same genre of... So, sorry, I interrupted with the question. It's your turn now, of course.
I already answered. I said Fever Pitch.
No, as in for the next question.
Oh, of course, of course. The next question I was going to ask, and I I think it's quite an important one, is what are your favourite gaming franchises that you played that have spanned eras or whatever?
Ooh, franchises. Oh, that's difficult because a lot of franchises that I really enjoyed turned kind of cruddy.
Do you mean like Ultima, yeah?
I really loved Ultima until it got to 8 was sort of, and then 9 hurt me badly because I bought the box set version and
So did I.
and then when he went 10 gold pieces, how much is that? And I'm like, "Argh!" Interestingly, I was running it on a computer that wasn't very powerful, so it would actually stutter during dialogue. And the woman who runs the general store in Britannia, it's an interesting story, when she tries to say thank you and will there be anything else, the "wha" and "ank you" combined when she was speaking, and I was like, I'm feeling very awkward. And
Disgusting.
of course, since I have anywhere near a more decent PC, I could play it at fantastic speed and rate, which I never would want to. Mortal Kombat was good, and then it got to Deadly Alliance, and then the other ones, and it only really got really redeemed in the new one on the 360, which is fantastic.
Yes.
But for one other series, I'm trying to think of what other series would be good.
By the way, by the time 9 came out, had Richard Garriott left Origin at the time?
Richard Garriott was sort of not so much involved, and they had a completely different ending actually planned for endings that made much more sense. But EA just sort of went, "Hey, we need this game releasing now," and then it got released now, and yeah.
Wonderful EA, destroyers of game studios. Anyway, sorry, Def, do you have any franchises that you have particularly fond of memories of over the years?
Well, see, of the franchises that I have played, it's always games that I haven't played all of them. We're talking like the Elder Scrolls. I've only played Morrowind, Oblivion, and Skyrim, stuff like that. Dragon Warrior, I played Dragon Warrior 1, 2, and then Dragon's Quest, whatever one came out on the PS2. I don't remember.
Speaking of which, I love Dragon Quest 8 on the PS2.
I think that's the one. That's the one I have.
Brilliant. Yeah.
Otherwise, no, go ahead.
I was gonna say it's the one where the king gets turned into this goblin thing
like
or some
goblin,
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, go on. What else were you about to say?
Otherwise, all the franchise games that I've always stuck with through and through are all fighting games, like Dead or Alive, Soul Calibur, stuff like that. Tekken.
I could just imagine you going, Beach Volleyball 2 has arrived!
I have never played... Actually, I've never played any of the beach volleyballs. I had a friend who played it.
I have.
Who had it, and I played it briefly at his house.
I own Beach Volleyball 1 purely because it was practically given to me by someone. I'm getting rid of games, here it is. And they actually, when you've watched the credits, they happily inform you that you can go into the options and watch the Eula stuff again. It's great! No!
Wonderful.
And then I turned it off and it's never been played ever again.
I have played it. I actually may even have a copy of it somewhere. Although I rented Rumble Roses as well, which is another really fucking bad beat 'em up on the 360.
Game, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it has a photography mode where they just stand there and you can zoom in and take pictures of them. It's quite disturbing, actually.
Beach volleyball had that too, I think.
Does it? I didn't play enough of it to be aware of that. But yeah, they're both fairly fucking bad, to be honest with you. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I like Soul Calibur as a beat 'em up franchise. It's my favourite beat 'em up franchise, actually. I love Soul Calibur.
Yeah, Soul Calibur.
I think Soul Calibur 2 on the PS2, the one that has a story mode with you move around a map that goes on for quite a long time. I really like that. That was my favourite.
That's actually that's the one they had it was GameCube, the original Xbox, and PS2, and depending on which one you got a different character. It was like Link for GameCube, Spawn for the Xbox, and Heihachi Mishima for PS2, I think.
That's correct, yeah. So the Tekken dude. Yeah.
I never played the Xbox one. Or not, I never played the PS2 one. I had the GameCube one, and I had a friend who had it for the Xbox, and he would bring it over and we'd play it. And Spawn
I still own the PS2 one.
Spawn was the cheapest piece of shit ever, because he had projectiles.
It's good to go back over memories like that. I guess it's, there's lots of good memories in beat 'em up franchises. Actually, I don't play many beat 'em ups, but Soul Calibur, I have good memories. Now it's my turn. My favorite franchises. I'm not going to go through the obvious ones. Everyone knows that I like Thief, and I always talk about how good Thief is. So I'm going to drop Thief and Baldur's Gate as well. Let's talk about some stuff that I haven't mentioned as much before. I'm going to go for Shadow Hearts as my third favorite franchise of all time. Absolutely love it.
Are you referring to the one which Koudelka is in the same series?
Yes!
Which I own Koudelka!
So do I. I have a copy of Koudelka as well.
Which is like, this is a really cool game, but what's wrong with the battle system?
It's like a chessboard almost, isn't it? Like a grid.
Oh no, my knife broke. Great.
But Koudelka, while it's clunky, I think has a good story.
It does.
And I think Shadow Hearts, and particularly Shadow Hearts 2, Shadow Hearts 2, in my opinion, is the best of the four. And in fact, Shadow Hearts 2 is one of the best games ever. It's outstanding. It has great characters, great story. It's hilariously laugh out loud at times. It has just brilliant. It's just fucking brilliant.
And it's available only from her eBay store for £22. No.
I unfortunately don't own them anymore, sadly, but they are really, really good games, and I actually would like to buy them again. I might have a look around. I think they're pretty expensive these days because it's quite a rare franchise.
Koudelka's not too expensive, I don't think.
I think I actually still have Koudelka, but the Shadow Hearts games I do not. But yeah, it's an absolutely fantastic franchise, and it's one of my all-time favourites, and I really like. I don't know why I like it so much, but it's probably my favourite JRPG franchise. I mean, I like Persona as well. I like the earlier Personas too. I think that's one of my favourite JRPG franchises, at least. But I don't like. I'm not a huge fan of Shin Megami Tensei as a whole because Digital Devil Saga and Nocturne or Lucifer's Call, or whatever you want to call it, they're a bit too brutally difficult for me, and I found them quite frustrating, whereas the Persona games were a bit more accessible in their playability, as it were. I think that's why I like them.
Persona, Japanese dating simulators.
Yeah, I do quite like that aspect of it, actually, admittedly. It's good fun. It's good. I like my dating simulators. I wouldn't have played Dragon Quest 2 if it wasn't just a dating simulator where you hit people a lot. That's basically what it is.
I'm surprised.
So yeah,
I'm surprised no one said any of the classic ones like Crash Bandicoot or something.
Crash Bandicoot was fine for me all the way up until Crash Team Racing. 1, 2, 3, Crash Team Racing. Brilliant. Have you noticed the trend with Naughty Dog franchises doing 1, 2, 3 and Crash Team Racing? So clearly, we're now going to have Uncharted kart racing.
That'd be amazing.
And but after they got rid of it, then there was Crash Bash, and we got Crash Bash. I mean, first thing we noticed was how come the quality of the graphics has got worse?
Yeah.
And then there was Wrath of Cortex, which is kind of. And then it sort of went, I don't know, over there with all the other has-been like Aero the Acrobat, and he's just there, just comatose.
He's like a relic of the game. He's like a relic of gaming franchises. It's platforming franchises. I like Jak and Daxter, the originals anyway. The original 3.
Yes,
I really enjoyed
really
them.
Good.
And obviously Donkey Kong, the SNES Donkey Kongs. They were fantastic. They have really memorable music.
Now,
too.
I liked Donkey Kong 64 though.
I got into Donkey Kong through the Game Boy games, which were Banana Yellow.
Yeah.
They were good. They were very good games, actually. The Game Boy Donkey Kong games.
Yeah, they're fairly similar, I think.
They
to
were
the SNES
fairly
games, weren't they?
similar.
Yeah.
Yes.
I had the.
I
had them.
sorry.
I had them. I had that Banana Yellow cartridge of Donkey Kong, and a lot of those. I don't know if anyone remembers this at all, but the Game Boy adapter, you stick it into your Super Nintendo, then you slide the game in.
Yeah,
you
Super
play
Game Boy.
Yeah.
I mentioned it earlier.
Oh yeah, you did, didn't you? And I always played. I would only play my Game Boy games on that after a while because. All we had was the big gray blocky Game Boys.
Yeah. I used to enjoy painting the screen on that. You could paint the sidebars and stuff and things like that. It was great. It was the highlight of the fucking thing. I loved it.
And eventually, we got this adapter thing for your. It wasn't an adapter, but it was a thing you slipped over your Game Boy that had a magnifying glass and a light on it.
Ah, the game light. Yes,
Yeah.
I know those. I have a Game Boy Game Genie still.
Oh wow!
Really?
Didn't know those
Yes, they
existed.
do exist, and I only have one of the Game Genie little books for it. I wouldn't mind getting more of them.
I think
Like-
I still have the Game Genie book for the NES, I think, downstairs.
I love some of the Game Genie codes where like just make things harder. I don't need this game to be harder. I came to you for it to be easier.
In that era, you definitely didn't want it to be harder.
No.
To be honest with you. I mean, speaking of coloured cartridges, actually, I don't think I've ever had many. I have the gold Ocarina of Time cartridge for the N64, and I have the black Turok 2 cartridge for the N64 as well.
Yep.
Seeds of Evil.
Yeah.
I like that game actually. I actually quite like the Turok
And
franchise. It's a bit ropey, but it's okay.
And I still remember the cheat for Seeds of Evil for everything. Beware, oblivion is at hand. So if you have that on the 64, put that in, and you can have all weapons, invincibility, infinite ammo,
Now,
everything.
I don't have too many coloured games left, but I do have my red cartridge of Spider-Man and Venom Maximum Carnage for the Mega Drive.
I actually love the comic of Maximum Carnage.
Well, quite a
It's
few
brilliant.
of the comic panel, it follows the comic very closely, and actually has panels digitized from the comic in it, which then makes me instantly think of Comic Zones, where I just go, hi. Brilliant game, Comic Zones. Everyone should play Comic Zones. It's brilliant.
Interesting. Well, we have actually come to the end of the podcast for this episode. But one thing before we go, Kiko, if you could recommend to our viewers one retro game to seek out, what would it be?
Ooh, gotta think. One retro game. Just one. Dang. I'm looking desperately. I'm thinking.
I like your thinking noise. It's actually pretty impressive.
I'm looking up now.
It's okay to say ball jacks, you know.
I'm not going to say ball jacks. Good lord. If there's only one game that you would recommend that you play, I would actually say that you should play RoboCod.
James Pond.
RoboCod. If you can't get the Amiga version, the Mega Drive one's good because the Amiga version has penguin bars.
That sounds
And it's a
amazing.
fantastic game.
Def, one game from you.
Oh, retro game. Oh, shit, for me?
Yeah.
Equal parts annoying, equal parts fun, I'd say Legacy of the Wizard.
Legacy of the Wizard. I'm going to be slightly less retro and say everyone should check out Kodelka because it is the start of an amazing game series and it's on the PS1. So anyway, guys, hope you had a wonderful time listening to the podcast. Thank you very much for coming along, Mr. Kiko.
That's not a problem at all.
And Mr. Definition.
Always.
Bye for now, everyone. We'll see you on the next episode. Bye for now.
Bye.